And scene.
What's poppin', man? It's Audio Al, and you're listening to Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix, right here on YouTube, Spotify, or any of your favorite streaming apps.
Thank you, Audio Al. It is Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, 8 p.m. sharp. This is the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast, and we welcome you greatly. I am one of your lovely hostesses, the Garlic Johnson, and we are joined, as always, by our other lovely hostess, the Joshua Mitchell. Josh, say hi to the folks out there listening live at the time.
Hola!
Or I guess, no, the listeners would not be live at the time. What would be a cool, clicky way of saying for them, listening dead at the time?
Good morning, good evening, and good night, losers.
Yeah, whatever Josh said.
Well, if they played me in fantasy, it's likely they are a loser.
All right. Well, if you'd like to interact with this podcast, there's obviously our Discord channel. Otherwise, there's anchor.fm/hoodpod to leave us voicemails. We would love either of those interactions. I know sometimes we get a YouTube comment here or there. That was kind of Jack's thing last year. I haven't checked that. Maybe he left a comment. I don't know. I could literally go look right now, but that sounds like a lot of work. Descriptions, segment start times down in the description below. Thank you, Levi Oki, for all the beautiful art. Josh, how are we doing today, pal? I'm excited. It's a half an hour show. We gotta get into it. But before, we're humans. How you doing, pal? How are you emotionally, mentally, physically?
Emotionally, physically, mentally, all of the abovely. A little bit exhausted. Asher when he goes to daycare. He's a child, so he puts all sorts of things in his mouth, puts all sorts of things in his hands, and then puts all sorts of things from his hands in his mouth. He's got hand, foot, and mouth. And for those of you who are not parents or are not aware of what that is, it is apparently a viral infection that it leaves skin-like marks and scabbing and blisters on those three locations, as well as the rest of the body. So it looks like he got rolled down a giant hill of carpet, and he's just got rug burn all over himself. It is disgusting. It is very hard to see because he's my little child, he's my spawn. But so I've been taking care of him the last few days, and then as some of the people in the Discord know, I somehow managed to rip my toenail off of my right big foot, my right big toe, I should say.
Your right big foot, as opposed to your...
Sorry, I have another page open. It's for my hunt this weekend, hunting Bigfoot. But
good luck.
But yeah, so now I'm down to 8 official toenails. It seems. So 8 to go. How are you, Gar?
I don't think I can follow. I don't think I was emotionally, mentally, or physically prepared to follow something like that. I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. I don't know. Life's good, man. A great Sunday of football. Obviously, it's always nice when the Vikes get a win. We'll get into that in a moment, but that's always a good feeling. Went over to my aunt and uncle's house for the game. Got to fill up with some fat food. It's not every day I have a chicken breast, a burger, and a brat, but it was 9/11, so never forget. I got to live twice as much as the next guy, remembering the dead. So it was a good day, and I'm happy football's back, and had a good therapy session today. So, all the things are coming up, Gar. With that, are we ready to get into it, or do you have anything else you want to talk about? Maybe do you want to get some tears out before we really get into the show?
No, I'm good. As you said, football happened on Sunday. It was a lot of good games, a lot of interesting games, I should say. A lot of things that made me go, okay, yeah, football things. But yeah, I'm happy to hear that you had a great time, and yeah, let's get into it.
All right, I will say before we start, I didn't want to overblow it. Obviously, you asked me how I was doing. I am sorry to hear about your little man. I've thrown a bunch of medical minute ideas at Jamie in the last couple days. You probably won't get through all of them, but there's another one. There's Josh having a baby. Levi had a kid. Jamie, kids are popping out left and right. Before we know it, Derek's popping out kids. Willie just had a kid, so that sounds like it'd be a very relevant medical minute. So Hammer, if you happen to listen to this, or Jim Jam, it sounds like another great idea what Josh was just talking about, even though he is going through an unfortunate situation. But let's get into it, Josh. We're not going to call this segment the quick hitters. I don't think we'll just do I don't know. Maybe we'll just do Gar's Grinder as its own thing, and then Rant Rave as its own thing. But anyways, I'm just reading the note sheet out loud because I'm bright and I can't process things. Anyways, we're starting with Gar's Grinder. That's an ugly way to start. But this real quick, Gar's Grinder for the weekend. Anyone who was watching, it was blowing up our Discord. Love to see the participation from Mika and from Eric's and from Josh and from Brad, of all people, getting in there. But that Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game was absolutely wild, Josh. Went to overtime. Looked like it was going to tie. The Bengals lose their long snapper, Big Kick Mick, which I don't really like. No, I like Big Kick Mick. What everyone else calls a Money Mac. I hate that. I like Big Kick Mick.
Yeah, Big Kick Mick for sure.
Yeah, okay. Everyone else has been calling him Money Mac, but I can't do it. I'm Big Kick Mick forever. Yeah. Anyways.
I think that, so hang on here. I know that we're supposed to be half an hour. We're going quick. I'm going to kind of derail.
We're only 5 minutes in. We're good, dude.
When are people going to realize that money moniker, that money addition to that nickname is just setting them up for failure? Money Badger, dead. Money Manziel, dead. Money, dead. So, I mean, well, I don't know about the last one, but yeah, I don't have any of it. So, but yeah, so just, Money Mac, toss it aside, maybe throw some petrol on it. And
petrol,
then
wow, really appealing to our across the pond listeners.
Well, our only listeners. And then, light up a ciggy and toss it on it. That nickname's dead. We're talking Big Dick Mick. Big Kick Mick, my bad.
Why not all the above?
Yeah. So, sorry, my rant over.
No, I mean, you gotta get in there, man. You gotta get it in there. I appreciate your participation as always. But anyways, where I was going with that, Gar's Grinder this week, we got to go with our man, or my man at least, Chris Boswell, C-Boss, C-Bass, whatever kids are calling him these days. 3 for 4 field goals. Missed one that he probably shouldn't have missed, but he got it done in the end. Kicks the game-winning field goal in overtime. 3 out of 4 made. 2 extra points with it. One good from 20 to 29. One good from 40 to 49. And one good from 50 plus. I don't see the exact yardages. I'm just reading it off Sleeper right now. But Chris Boswell gets it done for the Steel City in overtime. That's Gar's Grinder. You gotta forget those missed kicks. You gotta get it done. Love to see it for the Steelers. I only gave them 3 wins this year, so better slow the fuck down. Or my 272 is already shot. But yeah, Chris Boswell gets it done. He's Gar's Grinder this week.
That's my kicker, man. That's my kicker.
Not Hot Rod. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Hot Rod. So moving on, Rant and Rave. Kind of already did a little bit of ranting about nicknames. The only Rant and Rave that I've got going on right now is, people are calling the Packers dead. They did this last year at this time. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the Packers, so shut up, people who are like, oh, of course he is. Christian Watson came into the league with drop issues, so color me shocked when he drops a wide open pass. First offensive play of the game, literally cost us the game. Probably not, because the rest of the team looks sluggish too. But who knows? I will say this. The fact that he got that much separation is positive. He did make up for it a little bit later with a catch and a decent run. But overall, buddy, stick 'em. Bathe in it. Just catch the damn ball. Guard, do you have anything that you want to get off your chest? I mean, obviously, I'm going to be a homer on that one. Fantasy-wise, I had a decent week, so I don't need to really rant and rave about that, except for Connor, you piece of crap.
Except for who?
Sorry?
Excuse me?
Connor.
Oh,
Connor,
no.
stick to stickering, because I hate playing against you in fantasy, because I could have 1,537 points, and you'd put up 1,600, because screw you.
Wow, you're pretty sad, aren't you?
Yep. Well, we'll get into it in grain of salt.
Yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be any salt left. But anyways, Rant and Rave for me. I don't have a whole lot. Like I already talked about, it's good to see the Vikings win. You want to rave about that Bills team on Thursday night? I know we've had a podcast since Sunday, since Thursday. But that Bills team look amazing. The Cowboys on Sunday night, they looked pretty rough. The Seahawks last night with the upset. It's Tuesday night. Everyone's already had 2 days full of headlines, so we don't need to go over the whole thing. But just. There's some good teams out there, man. The Giants, I told people to look out for the Giants. The Giants upset the Tennessee Titans. The Houston Texans tie the Colts, another team we've been telling people to look out for. Thanks to, Dougie Davis Daddy Milker's, what's his last name? Mills. Daddy Milker's Mills.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I don't have too much to rant or rave about. I didn't have any bad beats in fantasy. I lost one legitimate matchup because of Patrick Mahomes, but I also won one because of Patrick Mahomes. So I do know that we also have a voicemail though, and I gave a brief description to Audio Al of what I'm looking for, and so I don't know exactly what kind of voicemail he left us, but to me it seems like the rant and the rave time. This would be the right time to play it. So I don't know. Let's see what Audio Al got. Before even listening to it, I'm going to say that this is exactly what we want. Like, I'll be honest, Josh, for the people that listen, they're going to listen. I was like, Al, sometimes I feel like our listeners just don't know what they want to say in a voicemail. And so, Al, can you just leave us a voicemail as an example? Maybe it'll be easier if someone does it first, so then Brian or Brad or Jamie or whoever's like, you know what? Al made it sound so easy. I just go in there, record for 45 seconds while I'm bitching or I'm screaming, and then it's that easy to leave a voicemail. So I'm going to say...
Before you push play.
Oh, go ahead.
Before you push play, I already know that it's just going to be ripping the Packers and basically slobbing Justin Jefferson. So go on.
So the perfect
play.
example of what we're looking for in a voicemail. I don't hear anything bad about what you said, but shout out to Audio Al. Before I even push play, I haven't pre-listened to this. I thank you for your sterling example for the rest of our listeners. Let's see what he's got.
What a week it was, Josh and Gar. Audio Al here. And I'm not going to lie, episode 1 of Red Zone really had me in the first half. A lot of character development. Taysom Hill, I think he scored a touchdown. O.J. Howard had 2 touchdowns. It was really slow for fantasy-wise, but you know what? I was strapped in, buckled in, ready for that climax. And I was justified. I was high on Saquon. Fucking justified, baby. Kareem Hunt, justified. Jerry Jeudy, justified. Justin Jefferson, just like everyone else, justified. Let's go! I was 5-1 in all my leagues and survived 2 gillies, so I'm pretty high right now. Football's back, baby.
Do you have anything you want to say, Josh? Do you want to apologize to Al for slandering his name?
Yeah, I read between the lines. There's a lot of dissonant. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was a good voicemail. I enjoy Al's voicemails, even if it would have been just directed at me, but he didn't. So yeah, I apologize, Al. You are a bigger man. But congrats on the 5-1 week. And yeah, good luck next week unless you play me.
Speaking of, Josh, I mean, we can get into it at any point. Maybe we'll do it in the grain of salt here in the FanDuel top 3. So let's move on to the grain of salt. We talked about how things went pretty good for us in fantasy, or at least we alluded to it. Josh, what was your fantasy record on the week?
Well, I guess technically I went 4-2, and then I won in 2 Gilly leagues, so it survived in there. Well, yeah, because Brad's, I'm guessing, I considered it a win. So 6-2 overall. I already alluded to losing to Connor in the Dynasty League, despite putting up the second most points forward. That kind of is the pattern in that league because I know it's rigged. But overall, with the intellectual property of Joshua Allen Bunker Incorporated, I am 40-17 after 1 week for a win percentage of 70%.
That's pretty good, Josh. I see. So we're gonna talk about this in a second. I'll just go through my stats here, though. I went 7-1 in fantasy, only losing in my Yahoo league, and that's, again, I went up against Patrick Mahomes. That guy's team was stacked. He's the champion. And yeah, he has a stacked champion dynasty team. Josh, you should look into that. See if you could learn a thing or two from Willie. But anyways, that was my one loss on the week, 7-1. My record, if I were to play every team the whole week, I was 58-40. So 7-1 looks amazing. Then when you peek under the hood, 58-40 looks much less amazing. That's only a 60 or 59.2 win percentage. So, we got some leagues that are good, some leagues that we're going to have to figure it out. But, Hidden Oaks Redraft League, 13-0, baby. Highest score of the week, #1 power ranking. That's my home. That's my league. But so the thing I wanted to get into, so yeah, I'm very confused on what you decided to do here with your wins and losses and then the intellectual property of Joshua Allen Bunker Incorporated. Because to me, it makes less sense to count wins in the top category just when we're counting pure wins and losses. Like for the guillotine leagues, because a win is only being not the bottom score. So I decided to not count that win in JWoww's league. But then also, I think it would make a lot more sense to count the wins and losses against every team, and like in the bottom table here. And you just counted one win in each. But to me, it makes a lot more sense to do those as full numbers. So like if you look at my sheet, you'll see what I'm talking about, where we kind of did it different. But I guess, can you talk about why you're doing yours the way you are? I'm just confused by your intellect.
Well, we'll kind of go ahead and blame that mental clarity that I was talking about and during our chit chat this to begin the show. I only got like 4 hours of sleep last night. I'm sitting here with a toenail that's bleeding, child that's fussy, and not sleeping too well, and I just wanted to get it done. I wasn't going to go through and count. I thought about it. But, I just included it on there because, in my opinion, if I don't get eliminated, I win. So, if I get eliminated week 13 or week like 7 or something like that, then it's just then it kind of fades off from existence. I don't get any more losses. I don't get any more wins. But for the intellectual property of Joshua Allen Bunker Incorporated, we'll just pretend I had the high score in both of them. So if we had,
I know for sure I beat you in JWoww's league. So.
Well,
you would have been 8-9 in JWoww's league.
We're talking
because you were literally the score right beneath me. I beat you by like by 0.3 or something.
Well, fine. And then in Brad's league, 22-0.
All right. For the grain of salt, we're both really good. That's the point. That's what we're trying to get out here.
Yeah. I mean, we should get people to listen to us. And if you tune in on Saturday morning, you'll hear just how well we did with our who should we start.
See, I like the idea of separating the grain of the salt from the advice, because I feel like we can really get caught up in the grain of salt. And so now we get to do the grain of salt on Tuesday night, let people know how good we are, and then they can completely forget how good we were by Saturday morning, or how bad we were. So I like the way we're doing this. Anyways,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all I had to say was just yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got you had the FanDuel top 3 in here, so I'm not sure if you're talking about players or like football players or the FanDuel participants, but obviously Patrick Mahomes had a great week, 34.9 points. Justin Jefferson also put up 34.9 points. Justin Jefferson would have been the slightly better value there, and then Saquon Barkley was a 4.5 times value with 30.4 points. So those are the top 3 by fantasy points. If you're doing the top 3 by value, it's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, 7.4 times value for their 26 points. The Miami Dolphins were 4.7 times value with their 18 points. And then Saquon Barkley makes the top 3 again, 4.5 times value with his 30.4 fantasy points and half PPR in FanDuel. If you're talking the top 3 in terms of human points, Big Daddy Kush is back on our leaderboard like he was pretty much all last year. He scored 161 from the first week. T-Lo Loves Football, our champion from last year, they got 157.12. And then Cody, I believe they were up near the top every once in a while last year. They got 150.06. And if I scroll all the way down to 10th, Josh, 113.7. Were you even trying?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the way she goes. But I guess, yeah, so top 10 scores will win in the FanDuel this week. I've gotten a couple texts about it, people asking me, even though I've made it very clear every time I've communicated to anyone. So the top 10 best scores is who will determine the money winners this year. I'm not sure what the payouts will be just yet because we're still having people join because you only need 10 weeks to, quote-unquote, be eligible. So we might fill it out to 20 just yet. We got just one today. So anything else you want to talk about in the weekly recap, Josh? You want to move on to the Hoodlines?
No, you were just on such a good roll. I didn't feel like interrupting you with the FanDuel top 3, but that is something that I had just copied and pasted from a agenda from last year. So I didn't
think it's good to go
part.
over. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I figured we could go over the top 3 scores for people, and then like maybe just toss in a couple performances like you did. But yeah, so now we're going to go into our new segment, Hoodlines, brought to us by Skybusters.
I figured if there was one like mini segment that Brian would want to sponsor, it would be the Hoodlines. So, Josh, you better make him proud. Yeah. You better, if he pulls his investment, we're gonna have to turn the lights off and shut her down.
Yep. So these are headlines from the hood. We've got a pessimistic drafter leans on Winston, Barkley, and Jefferson to defeat his former partner. Gar, anybody that was pessimistic during the draft?
I mean, a guy that repeatedly said my team stinks and was begging Nikita to trade him Kirk Cousins. Doesn't ring any bells, no.
Catch-22 puts up 48 points on a Monday night game using the Denver Broncos' stale offense, might add, to squeak out a win versus Cup of Tea by 3 points. And yes, I had to hear about that one.
I thought she goes to bed by 7.
Well, we talked about it during dinner. But teams with players scoring 0, we had 4 teams that scored 0 points. Or had
Not 4. I would say 4 teams scoring 0 points. That's wild.
Yeah, well, 4 teams with players in their starting lineup that scored 0. Someone managed to win 1-3. Congrats. Team, and that was actually Hammer versus my wife. So sorry, Nikita. Love you. I think we had 5 players that scored more than 30 plus points. Teams that had players scoring 30 plus went 2-2. So not necessarily a good thing to score a lot of points.
Well, I think it speaks. Obviously, you were being sarcastic or facetious or whatever, but it speaks more to like sometimes you can be really carried by your top performance, and sometimes even those best performers aren't enough to carry you. So like the stars and studs, or the studs and duds method, or whatever people want to talk about in drafts. I mean, it's more of an auction thing, but it doesn't always work out. At least based on week 1.
And honestly, it's as if you had read my mind about a topic of conversation that I thought about earlier today that I didn't put in the agenda. But you mentioned having studs that carry your team, players that have 30 points and you still lose. And I had mentioned earlier on a headline that you had 3 guys kind of carry your team.
Oh, big league.
Which would you prefer? Would you prefer to have those 3 guys in your lineup put up? Because 2 of those 3 put up 30 in yours, or 30 plus.
Yep.
And then the rest of them.
One of them was almost 40.
Stale.
Should put a little respect on JJ, huh?
Yeah. Well, he over 30. He could have scored 60. It's over 30. Just saying. But would you rather have that be the case where you have like a power 3? And then the rest of your team is just kind of, scraps? Or would you rather be somebody who, puts up a solid performance kind of week in, week out, but doesn't have anybody that's over 30?
We've talked about this many times over the history of the podcast, over our previous 105 episodes. Like a high floor will get you wins across the regular season. You'll just tread the line, and you'll lose to the pop it off teams, but you'll beat the teams who had a stinker week, or the teams who just aren't so good. I think the high floor teams, which probably will say the high floor teams don't have the big 3. The high floor teams, I don't think they win championships really unless you get too lucky. I think the big 3, the high ceiling teams, that's what you need to win the ship. So, of course, if you're carried by big 3, that's not going to be consistent. But if you can win enough and just get hot late, I think that's ultimately what wins championships more consistently than just a high floor team that gets lucky on a bunch of people stinking in front of them. So, I would prefer the big 3 because I think that's the difference. The high ceiling is what makes the difference in winning. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the high floor and how. Or that that floor and how high it is, because if you get a guy who consistently gets you 15, that's it's not 30, but if he consistently gets 15 and pops off for 25 from time to time, yeah, I'll take it, because those are nice just plug and forget. But then you get guys that, like Mike Evans, is somebody that I love to hate. He always has solid seasons. He's always in the top kind of 10 wide receivers, top 5 wide receivers scoring wise, but he always has games where he has just a stat line that baffles you. Like last year, he had 2, or was it last year or 2 years ago? He had 2 catches, 2 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's like, okay. And then he has some games where it's 0, but then you get some games where he has 40. And so it's just like, okay, so there's some volatile players out there. And so I'd rather have the high floor than have to deal with the stress of a volatile player like that. But I do understand what you're saying with kind of like the booming. JJ is not going to be somebody that's volatile. Barkley might be, but
I don't want to interrupt you, but volatility is obviously relative. Like JJ's, like he's not going to be volatile, like in the respect that he's going to have like a 0-point week probably, but volatile in the fact like he could probably go between 20 and 40. That's still pretty volatile. Like he's not going to score 40 points again next week. That'd be nuts. But he'll probably score me 15 to 20.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I guess that is true, but I was thinking more of the between the 0s and the 30s, not the guys like that. I don't want to have, I don't know.
I didn't mean to interrupt your thought there if I ruined a beautiful thing that was coming out, but
No, well, it's me, so it's not beautiful. But I do see that
Josh.
you added the side bet winner, which was Hambone, with 7 players at 15 plus points. Congrats. I don't know.
mean,
Do we want to look ahead?
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, we still got 6 minutes here, 5 minutes here. I just wanted to go through. You want to talk about the difference between high floor, low ceiling? Like Hammer didn't have anyone scoring 40 points, but Christian McCaffrey was 15.7, Javonte Williams 19.8, Jerry Jeudy 20.2, Amon Ra 20.4, Christian Kirk 17.7. Those were all in his starting lineup, and then on the bench he had Miles Sanders with 18.5 and Roby Anderson with 21.2. So not a single person on Hammer's team scored above 20. No one in his starting lineup scored above 20.5 or 21, and no one on his bench scored above 22. So we'll see. I mean, maybe we'll see. Is Hammer going to go further, or am I going to go further? Maybe Hammer's the high floor team and I'm the high ceiling team. But that was just something I wanted to highlight real quick. But yeah, I definitely, in terms of looking ahead, going on to the next little bullet point here, and then we'll get out of here with a little obitch. Looking ahead, I'm just curious, just briefly, what your thoughts are, because you and I are both compete in a lot of fantasy leagues with almost everyone who listens to this podcast competes against us in a fantasy league. But just obviously, waivers are a big deal. And this time last year, Tyson Williams went big. Like people were spending, for people that have the free agent auction budget, they were spending like 30%, 40% of their auction budget just to get Tyson Williams, and he ended up being a big disappointment, fool's gold. Probably got dropped by a lot of teams by like week 8, if not a lot sooner. So I guess I'm thinking like look into, because like probably Carson Wentz is going to be a hot ad, Devin Duvernay is going to be a hot ad, Jeffrey Wilson's going to be a hot ad. Without giving too much away, who do you think is actually going to be worth it, and who do you think is going to end up being fool's gold?
I honestly, so like with these overreactions after 1 week is kind of something that it tends to happen. Like you mentioned, Tyson Williams. And so that is something that typically after 1 week, I try to hold my rosters as much as I can, unless like it's a kicker or a defense that I want to switch out just for whatever reason. Just because it's 1 week, teams are still learning. And so you get those major injuries like Elijah Mitchell got. And I believe that was one of the things that I'd said that, he was already hurt preseason, because I know a lot of people were high on him. He had a great game up until that point, which sucks for him and his owners. But I don't want to go out there and grab the running back that's behind him on the depth chart on a team that, typically runs the ball with 5 different people, it seems. And so I just kind of want to wait and see, let people spend their free agency budget a little bit on week 1. Because last year, I think somebody went for like $75 in my Victoria's Secret League. And it was just ridiculous. I don't even know if that player stayed on that roster. So it's just, I'm going to save it until I absolutely need it. And then I like to pick guys up like week 10 that are starting to fill in for guys.
I don't touch the waiver wire until week 10, says the guy who's already has like 14 transactions in the redraft.
Stop. I'm trying to throw people off my trail.
Okay. All right. Well, we got to get. Well, I mean, we're not keeping it strictly under 30 minutes, but we got to move along. I guess the whole point I'm trying to make is like, after week 1 last year, maybe week 2, but at week 1 last year, if you go out and spend like 40% of your auction budget on Tyson Williams, there's a good chance you lose your league or don't go very far because you put a lot of resources out there. However, in the same like week 1, week 2 time frame, if you were to go and put out 30 to 40% of your auction budget on Cordarrelle Patterson, who no one drafted last year and then like absolutely broke out, then you were probably in most of your championships, if not heavy in the playoffs. So I'm just saying, like right now, there's going to be plenty of fool's gold. Like personally, I think Devin Duvernay is fool's gold. Curtis Samuel, I think they're fool's gold. I'm not spending money on them, but Jeffrey Wilson, that's tough, especially if you're super running back needy, or Rex Burkhead in a PPR format. Like I'm not saying they're going to be a league winner on the same level of Cordarrelle Patterson last year, but I hear what you're saying. I'm not saying sitting and waiting is a bad strategy, but there's also players right now who you pick up this week who could be your league winner, like Cordarrelle Patterson was last year. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Some players will burn you, but some players could make your season. So I was just curious what your thoughts were.
Well, I do think that just like I'm holding on Jeff Wilson just because, or I'm holding off on setting anything up because last year when he filled in, when he had the opportunity to be the starter, I think he got like 2.6 yards per carry. He wasn't very good. So it's kind of like Plus Trey Lance runs the ball. Debo runs the ball. Brandon Ayuk took a handoff last week. So it's that's kind of that backfield is just so dependent on who's got the hot hand. It seems that I don't want to have I don't want to go out there and spend my free agency budget on or give up my waiver priority for a guy that's going to be like Cam Akers and just put up a rock.
All right, man. Well, that sounds good. I don't know what the Thursday night game is off the top of my head. Who cares? The last segment we got here before we get out of here, we're at 30 minutes. I'm sorry, but we'll get out of here. You got an obituary? Do you want to set up the bit, read it, and then I'll just... I do want to... I don't know if this is in your thing or not, but I do want to say this person took 3 quarterbacks who got eliminated, and fuck you for probably trying to not give me a quarterback, and I lived and you didn't, so nana and a boo-boo, stick your head in doo-doo. But Josh, set up your bit, and then just as you're done with the obituary, I'll play us out with the song.
Well, I was kind of hoping to have that Sarah McLachlan song for the dogs.
Well, I mean,
in the background.
You could have easily done anything more than letting me know this second.
I had to look up all these words in the dictionary to type this up. But so as listeners know, we are in a few guillotine leagues, and a history lesson for you: a guillotine is
sorry.
A guillotine is a medieval tool used to separate the head from the body, in a way to rid demons from the spinal cord. That part might have been made up, but this week we want to wish rest in peace to Brennan, aka Shockers Butler. He lived from 9/5/22 to 9/12/22. Some say the good die young. In this case, we won't. We mourn the passing of a man who had the balls to play a rookie 4th-string tight end in his flex. We remember him not only for his daring lineup, but also his daring draft strategy in which he rostered 3 quarterbacks. The 2 he had on the bench would have led him to the promise of another week, but on the eve of September 12th, he still had hope, flickering in his eyes as young Russell Wilson's revenge game surely meant that the offense would feast, especially Cortland Sutton. Alas, it was not Sutton who was a glutton, but those he went against. Now, as we remember Brennan for the short time he was with us, we must also look ahead to brighter days. Days where we no longer need to see the likes of Galladay and McBride in a starting lineup. Days in which we have scores surpassing 70 points, and we can all take our turns clenching our butt cheeks as the minutes in our hourglass of life dwindle. R.I.P. in peace, Brennan.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I have 3 quarterbacks on my guillotine roster. Am I next?
Who knows, man. That was pretty good. Obviously, if you're still listening out there, folks, we'll see you again Saturday morning at 8 a.m. sharp. Yeah. I thought that was pretty good. Obviously, we went a little over 30 minutes. I don't think we're going to... I mean, I guess you could say otherwise. I don't know if we're going to strictly keep it under 30, but I thought we did pretty good. We kept it moving.
Yeah. No, I thought it was fine. I do think that as far as shows go, the Saturday morning one was a lot smoother, a lot better. So
really, I felt the opposite. I felt like, because I feel like I really thrive off the structure of the note sheet, and when I'm fumbling around, like I felt like I was fumbling around Saturday morning. Whereas here, I felt like. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Great.
Oh, Josh, do you mean it?
Yeah, I do. But no, I do think both of them had their positives. Just a little bit of cleaning up to do in both, and then we should be good.
Oh yeah.
Watch out, Pat. Here we come.
All right. Talk to you later, Josh.
Go Packers.